the dig kind of operates an interesting time. And you mentioned this. One of the themes throughout it is kind of the continuity of time and how both us in our present can look back in time at the physical artifacts that exist and find out where we came from, but also those will continue to exist and what we leave behind will continue to exist. And so the film takes place in 1939, but it also obviously has a strong connection to the 6th century and that sort of Dark Ages era, which obviously leads to a lot of possible ways to go with the music. So how did you end up landing on the sound palette that you chose?
I don't know quite how we ended up here, but that is certainly one of the more interesting philosophical aspects of the film. And I mean, you're right to talk about that. The idea of the sort of, well, the permanence of time in a way, the sort of Buddhist Nietzschean idea of eternal return, that everything that's happened is permanent and that it will keep happening forever or something. And it's sort of a strangely uplifting idea for me. It gives you sort of hope in the sort of godless age we live in or something, that there's I don't know. But how do we end up at the sound palette? I mean, we started in a very different place in some ways. Simon had a very strong idea to use music of the period, like orchestral music of the period. And I thought that was a great starting point. I always suspected that sort of concert hall music was never going to quite work for the film, because films need film music, which functions in a different way. But I generated a lot of material in that world. But when it came to sort of putting it into the edit, I don't know, for whatever reason, it didn't quite work. And it became clear that we really needed music to do certain things in the film, function in really particular ways. And so I wrote music to really conquer certain tasks, I guess, in the film. And writing the music to evoke the landscape and that sort of stuff was a great pleasure. And it was sort of easy, funnily enough. It's easy to write music, which for me that was inspired by that. But communicating the subtler philosophical aspects of the film, which is what you were asking about, was one of the more difficult parts, because it's not a straight ahead sort of James Bond plot or something. That the plot twists in the film are subtle, and so it took a while of watching it and working with it to find out what the important moments were and the tone that they needed. And this philosophical idea that you've focused in on is one of the most important parts of it. And so there's some music which sort of scores that and reoccurs through the film. And in a way, that philosophical idea did inspire the music to the film, actually. Or the more subtle music to the film, yeah.
So, I mean, how were you able to kind of channel the philosophic nature and kind of the cyclical nature of everything into the music itself? I mean, and frankly, I realize how abstract we're getting at this point.
I don't know, actually. I mean, I don't even know if I do that successfully, but I think, on a simple level, it's about, there's a garbage truck here. I hope it's not interfering with our recording. At a simple level, there's some really intimate piano music in the film, and that's appropriate for the moments where there's these interactions between two people, like Basil and Mrs. Pretty, and it's reflective and it's very personal, and it's lonely and meditative, and you can imagine the feeling that someone is having at the piano maybe while they're playing that music, and that helps communicate that idea to the audience, hopefully. But then there's two other modes in the film too. There's this chamber strings, and then there's the bigger orchestral moments, and they really function in a very different way. I mean, there's a big orchestral piece of music when the ship is discovered, and that is getting at the same philosophical idea in a way, this sort of connection to time and to history, but it's selling it in a much bigger way. It's like the grand, it's like, how fantastic is that? Is this idea that that humanity is connected to its past, and that we're all connected to the earth, and we're all going to die, and that history will repeat itself. And so it's sort of about the big emotions that idea can elicit, whereas the piano stuff is about the more personal, reflective moments that idea can elicit. And there's other moods in the film as well, but that's just some of it.